Have you ever walked out of a meeting, like just looked around the conference room and realized with this cold, sinking sense of absolute dread that you are literally surrounded by idiots?
Oh, I'm sure everyone has felt that at least once.
Right. I mean, I am talking directly to you, the listener, right now. You know exactly the feeling I am describing.
No, absolutely.
You sit there, you're trapped in one of those awful ergonomic chairs, and you're just watching an overly aggressive boss steamroll everyone in the room, just, to stroke their own ego.
Yeah, the classic bulldozer move.
Exactly. Or you're forced to listen to that one colleague who absolutely never stops talking about their weekend or their dog or their newest diet. Meanwhile, a massive project deadline is actively on fire right in front of them.
Just completely oblivious to the room.
Totally oblivious. And you just look around and think, how does anything in this company actually get done? Like, how are we still in business?
It's a miracle, honestly.
It is. We constantly hear about, toxic work culture as this inescapable modern plague. And honestly, it feels like it's entirely driven by these impossible, frustrating people.
Well, it certainly feels that way when you're in the thick of it.
And look, do not even get me started on those utterly useless HR personality tests.
Uh-oh. I knew we'd get here.
I mean, you know the ones.
Yeah.
You fill out a bubble sheet, and suddenly they give everyone a colorful little excuse for their terrible, toxic behavior.
Right, the whole, this is just how I am defense.
Yes. Someone misses a critical deadline and says, oh, I'm just a tight queue, that's why I don't answer emails on Tuesdays. It's beyond exhausting.
I hear that frustration loud and clear, and man, it is a universally shared pain point. But I am actually going to interrupt you right there.
Uh-oh, bring it on.
Because what is truly fascinating about that entire perspective is that your fundamental premise, it's completely wrong.
Wait, what?
You are not surrounded by idiots.
I mean, I promise you, I have the meeting minutes to prove it.
Yeah.
I have the email chains, I have the receipts.
Oh, I'm sure you have the minutes, and you definitely might have the receipts. But what you do not have is the translation.
The translates.
Yeah, the people around you, the ones driving you to the absolute brink of insanity, they aren't actually idiots.
Could have fooled me.
They aren't lacking intelligence or purposely trying to sabotage your day. It is simply that you are trying to speak French to someone who only understands German.
Oh, okay. I see where you're going.
Right, and you are getting furious that they don't understand your French. This is the exact core premise we are unpacking in today's deep dive into the Surrounded by Idiots audiobook.
By Thomas Erikson, right?
Exactly, by behavioral expert Thomas Erikson. The problem in that conference room isn't a lack of intellect. It is a fundamental structural breakdown in behavioral language.
Look, that is a very diplomatic way of putting it. But calling them an idiot just feels, I don't know, incredibly accurate and deeply satisfying in the heat of the moment.
Oh, it always does.
Right. Because when someone looks at a spreadsheet, completely ignores all the data, and makes a decision based on their gut, the word idiot springs to mind very, very naturally.
Of course it does. It is our brain's easiest default setting. And Erikson actually starts the audiobook with a vivid, almost unbelievable example of this exact mindset. Just to, round everything we're going to talk about today.
Okay, I love a good horrible boss story. Hit me.
Oh, it's a great one. He introduces us to an entrepreneur named Storr.
Storr, got it.
Now, Storr was a man in his 60s who had built a highly successful, multi-million-dollar business completely from the ground up over 30 grueling years.
So he's not actually an idiot. He's clearly capable.
He was a very smart, very capable man, but he was notoriously, legendarily difficult to work for. He was the boss from hell.
We've all had one.
Exactly.
Huh.
So during a consulting interview, Erikson sits down with Storr, asks him what the primary problem in his company is, and Storr, completely deadpan, without a trace of irony, leans over the desk and says he is literally surrounded by idiots.
Unbelievable.
He just starts listing them off. Department A, a pack of complete idiots. Department B, clueless losers who can't tie their own shoes.
Oh, my God.
Department C, he said they were so strange he honestly didn't know how they managed to make it to work in the morning without getting lost.
Wow. I mean, I have definitely had bosses who probably thought that internally. But saying it out loud, on the record, to an outside consultant, that is phenomenally bold.
It takes a special kind of arrogance, and it gets so much better. Or, well, I guess Significantly worse.
How does it get worse than calling your entire staff clueless losers?
Store was so incredibly volatile, so prone to explosive outbursts, and his staff was so genuinely terrified of his wrath that at one of his main office sites, the employees actually rigged up a literal warning light in the lobby.
Wait, what? A physical warning light? Like, you mean like a studio on-air sign?
Exactly like that. It was wired right outside his office door, visible the second you walked into the building, but it was exclusively for his mood.
You're joking.
I'm completely serious. If Stur was in the office and in a bad mood, the light was glaring red. If he was out of the building or having a miraculously good day, it was green.
That is insane.
The entire staff, the managers, and even visiting customers would nervously look up at this traffic light before crossing the threshold.
So they actually used it.
Oh, yeah. If that light was red, some people would literally turn around, walk back to their cars, and go home rather than risk an interaction with him.
Okay, that is the absolute textbook definition of a toxic work culture, a literal red light to warn people that the boss is currently a hazard to human health.
It's wild.
How did the business even survive?
That is the million-dollar question. But here's the profound kicker to the Stur story. Erikson looks at this man, looks at this empire he has built, realizes that Sturger personally interviewed and hired almost all of these people himself.
Oh, I see where this is going.
And he asks a very simple question. He says, well, if they're all idiots, who let all these idiots in?
Oh, man. That is a very dangerous question to ask a man with a red light outside his door.
It really was. Stur turned beetroot red, practically started steaming from the ears, kicked Erikson out of the office, and screamed that the meeting was permanently over.
I am not surprised at all.
But that explosive reaction led Erikson to the foundational realization of this entire framework. Sturger's definition of an idiot had nothing to do with IQ or competence or experience.
Right, because he hired them. So what was his definition?
His definition of an idiot was simply anyone who didn't think, process information, or act exactly like him.
Ah, the ultimate ego trip.
Exactly. He had absolutely zero capacity to translate behavior. His brain was a closed loop. And that translation, breaking out of that closed loop, is exactly what we are doing today.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? How do we translate this stuff?
We are looking at the DISC assessment framework. It's a psychological tool that takes the chaotic, infinite spectrum of human behavior and maps it into 4 distinct, understandable colors.
Red, yellow, green, and blue, right?
Yes. Our mission today is to decode these behavioral languages so you never have to rig up a warning light in your own lobby.
I'm fully on board for the decoding process, believe me. But I'm going to go on the offensive right out of the gate here.
Let's hear it.
Because if we are actually mapping out this toxic work culture we all complain about, I want to start with the loud people.
The loud ones, okay.
Yeah, the people who take up all the oxygen in the room. To me, the overly aggressive bosses like Stur and the constantly distracted, highly emotional colleagues who hijack every room they enter, they are the absolute root causes of workplace misery.
You really think they're the root cause?
Yes. They force everyone else to tiptoe around them.
Okay, if you want to start with the loud end of the spectrum, then let's start with the aggressive bosses. In the DISC profile, these commanding individuals are categorized as the Reds.
The Reds, fitting color for a warning light.
Very fitting. And to really understand them, we need to connect this to the bigger historical picture of psychology.
Okay, give me the history lesson.
Because humanity has been trying to figure out these personality types for millennia, right? Going all the way back to the ancient Greeks and Hippocrates, Reds align perfectly with what was known as the choleric temperament.
Choleric. Wait, that historically relates to yellow bile, right?
Yeah.
The idea of being hot-tempered, fiery, and ambitious.
Precisely. The ancients associated it with fire, and that is just a brilliant metaphor for a red. Reds are task-oriented extroverts.
Task-oriented extroverts,
Yeah.
meaning they want to get things done loudly.
Basically. They are dynamic, fiercely driven, intensely competitive people who thrive on challenges. In fact, if a task is too easy or if a team is agreeing too quickly, a red genuinely becomes suspicious.
Suspicious, like they think someone is hiding something from them. Like, why isn't this harder than it should be?
Exactly that. They operate on a fundamental belief that life is meant to be a struggle, that nothing valuable comes without a fight, and that friction is what creates progress.
Wow. So they actually want the friction.
Yes. If there is no friction, they assume the work isn't important enough. Because of this, they operate on what we can define as a slog or split mentality.
Slog or split. What does that actually look like in practice?
Well, if a task truly matters to their overarching goal, A red will slog through absolute fire, water, and brick walls to get it done.
Right. The relentless drive.
They will work 80-hour weeks, they will bulldoze obstacles, and they will drag the rest of the company across the finish line by the scruff of their necks. They are the ultimate, undeniable accelerators in any organization.
Okay, I respect the hustle. But what about the split part?
Here is the split. If they look at a task, or say a mandatory HR seminar, and determine that it is pointless to their goals, they split.
They just leave.
They mentally and physically check out. They trash it immediately. They won't even pretend to care. They will literally walk out of the meeting.
You know, that actually explains a lot. I have seen that exact switch flip in people.
It's jarring, isn't it?
It really is. 1 minute, they are terrifyingly intense, and the next minute, they are staring at their phone while you're giving a presentation, making it painfully obvious you are wasting their time.
Because to them, you are.
But see, here is my problem with the Reds. I see the value in getting things done, absolutely. We need accelerators. But what about their massive, suffocating egos?
Ah, yes, the ego.
What about that absolute my way or the highway attitude? You cannot deny that Reds trample toes, and they don't just accidentally step on them, they jump up and down on them with spiked cleats.
I wouldn't dream of denying it. And neither does the source material. The dark side of Red behavior is severe, and it is entirely responsible for that toxic boss stereotype.
So how do you explain the toe trampling? Why do they do it?
To understand it, you have to understand a Red's relationship with time.
Time.
Yeah. To a Red, time is the only currency that actually matters. Because they move so incredibly fast, intellectually and decisively, they view anyone moving slower as a literal roadblock.
And to a Red, everyone is moving slower.
Exactly, which is basically everyone else on the planet. You aren't a person with a different working style. To a Red, you are an obstacle, preventing them from reaching their goal.
Okay, so to them, my need to double-check the math isn't diligence. It's an attack on their momentum.
Yes. And you brought up the ego, which is the other critical piece of the Red puzzle. Reds do not just want to lead. They feel a deep, psychological, compulsive need to control their environment.
Which is great in a crisis, I guess.
When a Red is in a healthy state of mind, it makes them decisive leaders in a crisis. But under stress, when the pressure is on and things start failing, a Red does not look inward.
Let me guess. They immediately look outward and find a scapegoat.
Instantly. They do not pause and ask, how did my leadership contribute to this failure? It is a psychological defense mechanism to protect that powerful yet fragile ego.
Wow. So they just deflect everything.
If a massive project fails, a Red will immediately point the finger, raise their voice to dominate the acoustic space, and loudly declare that someone else dropped the ball.
Yeah.
A specific department, a specific person.
They will go full stir. You are all idiots.
Precisely. They go full stir.
And that explosion right there, that is exactly what creates the toxic environment.
Because of the fear it creates.
Yes, because everyone else in the room is terrified of being the target of that explosion. Just like Stir's employees with the red light. So people hide. They hide their mistakes, they hide their data, and ultimately, the company suffers.
You're completely right. And we are going to address exactly how to disarm that explosion later on. But before we solve it, we need to introduce a metaphor that will carry us through this entire deep dive.
Okay, lay it on me.
Think of human behavior like a car's transmission.
A transmission, like manual gears.
Right. Your core personality, your morals, your deep internal values, that is the engine. It is who you are. But your behavior, the way you interact with the people around you, is the transmission.
So the engine's power meeting the road.
Yes. It is how the power meets the road. Right now, a Red is a car permanently stuck in fifth gear, foot slammed on the gas, assuming everyone else is just driving too slow.
Man, I really like that transmission metaphor. So if the Reds are the aggressive taskmasters permanently redlining in fifth gear, let's look at the other loud people in the office.
Let's shift gears to the yellows.
Yeah. The ones who aren't necessarily angry, but are constantly distracted, the highly emotional, talkative colleagues, the ones who bounce off the walls, hijack the meetings to talk about their ski trip, and promise the moon but never actually deliver.
Ah, the yellows. If Reds are task-oriented extroverts, yellows are relationship-oriented extroverts.
So they care about people, not just the task.
Exactly. Going back to our historical roots with Hippocrates, these are the sanguine temperaments.
Sanguine, blood, right?
Yes, the ancients associated this with blood, with air, with springtime. They are the social, lively, sunshine people.
Sunshine people. That sounds exhausting in a Tuesday morning budget meeting.
It can be, but their value is immense. Yellows are driven by a biological need for novelty and social approval. They run on dopamine.
Dopamine, so they just want the next fun thing.
Always. Because of this, they see incredible, boundless opportunities where everyone else just sees solid brick walls. They are the out-of-the-box thinkers who keep team morale from collapsing during a brutal quarter.
Okay, I can see that. They keep the energy up.
And above all else, they are unparalleled persuaders. A highly functioning yellow can sell snow to penguins and sand to Bedouins.
They really can talk their way into anything.
They possess this natural magnetic charisma that makes you feel in the moment they are speaking to you like you are the single most important human being on Earth.
Look, I will concede that. I have been charmed by a yellow.
It's hard not to be.
It is. They make you feel amazing for about 10 minutes, right up until they get distracted by a shiny object, walk away, and completely forget you exist.
Well, that's the flip side of the dopamine rush.
Exactly. Look, I will admit yellows are incredibly fun at a happy hour. You absolutely want them at the Christmas party. But in a high-stakes project meeting, they are a massive liability.
A liability, that's a strong word.
But it's true. They are careless with details. They are notoriously terrible listeners. And my biggest grievance, they constantly make everything about themselves.
The need for attention.
Yes. It is always, me, me, me. Look at my brilliant idea. Listen to my crazy story. They suck all the oxygen out of the room because they desperately need an audience.
You are touching on their exact glaring blind spots because yellows are so intensely focused on inspiration, big visions, and building social relationships. They actively, deeply despise structure and tedious details.
Spreadsheets are their kryptonite.
To a yellow, a spreadsheet is a literal prison cell. They are incredible at starting projects. They will get the whole team hyped up. They will design the beautiful logo. They will host the kickoff party.
But they never finish anything.
Right. They entirely lack the sustained focus to actually finish the final 10% of the work.
And what about the refusal to take accountability?
Oh, this is fascinating.
Because when a project inevitably stalls out because they forgot to file the paperwork, and you try to bring it up, they act like you are attacking them personally.
Yeah. That is one of the most interesting psychological mechanisms in the entire DISC framework. Yellows possess what behavioral experts call a selective memory.
Oh, how incredibly convenient for them. I'm sorry I ruined the project. My brain just selectively forgot.
It sounds like a cheap excuse, I know.
So,
But it is a genuine cognitive filter. Remember, a yellow's psychological safety is entirely tied to social approval and positive energy.
okay. So what happens when they mess up?
When a yellow makes a grave mistake, or when someone sits them down to give them harsh, negative feedback, their brain almost miraculously filters the negativity out.
Wait, really?
They simply drop the difficult, painful bits of reality to protect their sunny, optimistic disposition.
Wait, are you saying they literally convinced themselves they didn't mess up?
Yes, they will walk out of a severe reprimand from their boss, and if you ask them how it went, they will say, "Oh, it went great. We had a really good chat about future opportunities."
That is borderline delusional.
It's just how their brain protects them. So when you confront a yellow about dropping the ball, they look at you with genuine, unfeigned confusion because in their filtered reality, they didn't do anything wrong. They were just being creative.
Okay, stop. This is where I have to draw a hard line.
Let's hear the line.
What does this all mean for me? Or, the person listening to this right now who is nodding along. We have established that reds will scream at me to protect their egos.
Yep.
And yellows will completely ignore my deadlines and then conveniently forget they ever agreed to them.
Also true.
So why should I have to change my communication style to accommodate a red's temper tantrum or a yellow's sheer incompetence? Isn't adapting to them just rewarding toxic behavior?
That is the big question.
I mean, doesn't shifting my transmission to match theirs just make me a spineless pushover?
That is the most common visceral pushback to the entire DISC assessment. And honestly, it is a completely valid question. Why should you do the hard work of adapting when they are the ones behaving badly?
Exactly.
It's
It's
just
unfair.
It does feel unfair. But here is the foundational, unbreakable rule from the Surrounded by Idiots audiobook. And if you take nothing else away from this deep dive, you have to internalize this. In all communication, it is the recipient who is in the driver's seat.
The recipient, wait, not the speaker.
Not the speaker.
But I'm the one with the data. I'm the one trying to deliver the message.
It doesn't matter what you are trying to deliver. You know what you want to say and you know what it means to you. But what actually matters, the only thing that dictates whether the communication is successful, is what the other person understands based on their specific behavioral filter.
So if I speak perfect French,
Yeah.
But they only speak German? My perfect French is completely useless.
Exactly. You could be reciting poetry and they hear noise. Adapting your language isn't manipulative and it isn't submissive. It is highly intelligent. It is effective.
Okay, bring it back to the car metaphor.
Let's go back to the transmission.
Yeah.
If you're driving up a massive steep hill, you do not sit there in fifth gear, stalling out the engine, screaming at the hill for being too steep.
Right. You'd ruin the car.
You don't say, oh, the hill is toxic, I refuse to change. You shift down into second gear so you can conquer the hill.
Okay, that makes sense.
If you want a red boss to approve your budget, and you walk into their office and start slowly asking about their weekend and their kids, they are already annoyed. You have lost them before you even brought up the numbers.
Because I am wasting their ultimate currency, which is time.
Precisely. To get a red to actually hear your budget proposal, you have to shift into their gear. Be fast, skip the small talk entirely, look them in the eye, and get straight to the bottom line ROI.
So I'm not rewarding bad behavior.
No, you aren't rewarding bad behavior. You are choosing the only gear that actually engages their specific transmission.
Okay, I see the tactical advantage in that. It removes the emotion and just turns it into a puzzle to be solved.
Exactly. It's just mechanics.
But let's pivot the lens away from the loud people for a second. Let's assume I become a master of the loud colors. I learn to be brief and punchy with the reds, and I learn to be endlessly enthusiastic and follow up with the yellows.
Which is a great skill set to have.
Sure, but I still argue that if the loud people aren't the primary problem causing workplace stagnation, it is the quiet ones.
The quiet ones, okay.
Because if reds and yellows are driving the car at 100 miles an hour and hanging out the windows cheering, who is actually keeping the car on the road?
That's a very good question.
I am talking about the passive colleagues who drag their feet on every single decision, and the infuriating micromanagers who kill all forward momentum because they found a typo on page 42 of the spreadsheet.
Welcome to the quiet killers of momentum, the greens and the blues.
The quiet killers.
And we really need to pay very, very close attention to the greens because they are the silent majority.
Oh, chair.
Here is a shocking structural statistic from the source material. Greens make up roughly 50% of the general population.
Hold on. 50%. Half of the entire world is green.
Roughly, yes. Depending on the specific demographic study, greens are overwhelmingly the most common behavioral profile.
That is wild.
Going back to Hippocrates, these are the phlegmatic temperaments. Water, calm, slow-moving rivers. Greens are the relationship-oriented introverts.
Relationship-oriented introverts. Okay, so they care about people, but quietly.
Exactly. They are the absolute, undeniable bedrock of human society. They are the average, balanced, loyal, and exceptionally kind people who keep the world turning while the reds and yellows are making a mess.
Okay, contrast that with the loud colors for a second.
Yeah.
How do they interact differently?
Well, if a yellow will talk your ear off for an hour about themselves, a green will sit down, pour you a cup of coffee, and actually listen to you. Deeply listen.
That sounds really nice, actually.
It is nice. They are the ultimate team players because they care profoundly about stability and the emotional well-being of the collective group.
So they're the glue.
Exactly. They're the ones who will remember your birthday, they will ask about your sick mother, and they will genuinely care about the answer. A company full of purely reds and yellows would literally burn itself to the ground in a week. The greens provide the foundational stability.
Look, I cannot argue with that. They sound lovely. They sound like the perfect neighbors, the people you want to have a barbecue with.
Absolutely.
But in a highly competitive, fast-paced work environment, having 50% of the company being deeply focused on calm and stability, that sounds like a recipe for absolute corporate stagnation. What is the dark side of being a green?
Their utter, absolute, sometimes paralyzing refusal to embrace change.
The stubbornness.
Remember the transmission metaphor. If reds are in fifth gear, greens are happily cruising in second gear and they do not want to shift.
Because second gear is safe.
Greens are biologically and psychologically motivated by stability. Evolutionary psychology suggests this relates to the survival of the tribe. Change equals risk, and risk equals danger.
So change is basically a threat.
Therefore, any change in the workplace, even necessary, highly positive change like upgrading an archaic software system, is immediately viewed as a physical threat.
So they drag their feet. We've always done it this way. Why change?
They drag their feet with incredible persistence. But it goes deeper than just being stubborn. Because greens are so fiercely focused on relationships and tribe cohesion, they possess what Thomas Erikson calls the harmony outlook.
Harmony outlook, meaning they hate conflict.
They hate interpersonal conflict so much that they will do absolutely anything to avoid it. If you ask them a direct question that might upset someone, they become wishy-washy.
Right, they won't just say what they think.
They won't give you a straight yes or no because they are terrified of offending either side. And that deep-seated conflict avoidance inevitably, predictably, breeds severe passive aggressiveness.
Oh man, I know this exact behavior intimately.
We all do.
You sit in a team meeting, you pitch a new strategy, and you ask if everyone is on board. The Greens all nod politely, they smile, they say it looks fine.
They want the harmony in the room.
Yes, and then the second the meeting ends, they go straight to the coffee machine and complain relentlessly to each other about how terrible the new plan is.
Right.
But they will never, ever say it to your face.
Yes. They avoid the direct confrontation, but leak the negative emotion sideways. The audiobook uses a brilliant, highly specific, and deeply uncomfortable analogy to illustrate this exact green behavior.
Well, I'm ready. Let's hear the analogy.
I want you to visualize a beautiful, elegant dinner party. The table is set with fine china, the guests are seated, everyone is dressed up.
Sounds lovely.
But right in the dead center of the dining table, resting on a silver platter, there is a rotting moose head.
Wait, what? A rotting moose head. That is a visceral image.
Complete with massive antlers, dried blood, swarming flies, the whole horrifying thing. It is disgusting, and the smell is unbearable.
Okay, that is super gross. Let's play this out.
Okay, so let's play this out. If a red walked into that room, what would they do?
A red? They would scream at the host, demand to know who put it there, and physically throw it out the window.
Exactly. And if a yellow walked in?
A yellow would loudly gasp, take a selfie with it, make a wildly inappropriate joke, and then wander off to find the wine.
Nailed it. So what do the greens do?
A table entirely full of greens. What do?
They will just politely, quietly pass the bowl of mashed potatoes around the massive antlers. They will pretend it is absolutely not there.
Because pointing out the rotting moose head would be impolite.
Exactly. Pointing out the moose head would cause a scene. It would make the host uncomfortable. It would shatter the illusion of harmony. So the greens will physically endure the stench. They will suffer in silence just to maintain the social fabric of the dinner party.
That is horrifying.
Yeah.
And so deeply, depressingly accurate to modern corporate culture.
Isn't it?
Let's just pass the potatoes around the massive structural deficit we are facing. Let's just pass the gravy around the fact that our CEO has no idea what he's doing. Wow.
Yep. Keep the peace at all costs.
So if the Greens are busy hiding from the moose head to protect the peace, what are the Blues doing in this scenario?
The Blues aren't passing the potatoes. The Blues are standing next to the table with a tape measure, a thermometer, and a clipboard, calculating the exact chronological rate of decay of the moose head.
Okay, that paints a perfect picture.
The Blues are the task-oriented introverts. Historically, the melancholic temperament. Earth, structure, winter. They are the analytical perfectionists.
Analytical perfectionists, so hyperlogical.
Hyperlogical, intensely meticulous, and entirely quality-driven. These are the people who will buy a new piece of furniture, and before they even tear the tape off the cardboard box, they will read the IKEA manual from cover to cover.
In 3 different languages.
Cross-referencing the part numbers to ensure maximum structural integrity.
See, to me, Blues are just pessimistic roadblocks.
A lot of people feel that way.
Every single time a yellow or a red has a great visionary idea to move the company forward, the blue is sitting there at the end of the table, adjusting their glasses, and listing the 14 statistical ways the idea is going to fail. They just kill the joy.
To you, as someone who wants forward momentum, they seem like pessimistic buzzkills. But you have to translate their language. To themselves, Blues are simply being responsible realists.
Responsible realists.
What is truly fascinating here, psychologically, is how Blues view the concept of risk and mistakes. For a Blue, a decision is almost never final. Decisions are in progress. They are terrified of making a mistake.
Why? I mean, everyone makes mistakes. Why does it paralyze them?
Because for a Blue, their core internal value, their psychological safety, is tied to their competence.
Oh, so a mistake is personal.
Exactly. If a Blue makes a mistake, they do not just view it as a small error. They view it as an existential threat to their worth. A mistake means they are fundamentally flawed.
That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself.
It is. So to protect themselves from this dread, they demand more data, more spreadsheets, more beta testing, more proof.
And when you push them, Like when a red pushes them.
When a blue is put under extreme stress, say a red is screaming at them to just launch the product already, a blue doesn't yell back. They freeze.
They shut down the transmission.
Completely. They shift into park, they become hypercritical, splitting hairs so thin you need an electron microscope to see them, and they become completely, chillingly, emotionally detached.
That sounds intense.
They will sit across from you, look at you with an utterly blank, unreadable face, and tell you in a monotone voice that your project is statistically doomed and they will not sign off on it.
That emotional detachment is so unnerving. It's like trying to argue with a robot. You can't appeal to their humanity or their excitement because they have completely walled it off.
They have to protect the data.
Okay, so we have these 4 distinct behavioral languages. The aggressive, fast reds. The chaotic, charming yellows. The passive, harmony-seeking greens. And the hyper-analytical frozen blues.
The whole spectrum.
I want to see how this theory actually breaks down in a real-world, high-stakes scenario. Put them in a room together. Give me a classic workplace nightmare where these gears grind.
Okay, let's look at the ultimate clash of transmissions. A red boss and a blue employee.
Oh boy.
This is a classic disastrous pairing when communication fails. Imagine there is a manufacturing factory floor. One of the massive hydraulic machines has just blown a seal and leaked a massive pool of toxic oil all over the walkway.
Okay, a real crisis.
The red boss, who is storming through the factory on a tight schedule, walks in, sees the massive spill, and their brain goes to immediate decisive action. Slog or split.
And the oil is an obstacle. It needs to be removed.
Exactly. So the red boss turns to the blue floor manager, points at the mess, and yells, "Just mop up the oil spill, now."
Which, to be fair, makes complete sense. It is a massive safety hazard. Someone is going to slip, break their neck, and sue the company. The red is prioritizing immediate physical safety.
The red's logic is perfectly sound within their behavioral framework. Action is required, so action must be taken immediately. But watch what happens to the blue employee.
They don't mop it up.
The blue looks at the giant oil spill and then looks at the screaming red boss. The blue does not run to the closet and grab the mop. Instead, the blue freezes.
Shifting into park.
Their analytical brain goes into systemic overdrive. The blue looks at the red and says, in a flat tone, we cannot just mop it up. We need to shut down the line and do a full analysis of the supply chain to find out why the machine leaked in the first place.
Oh, wow. So they're looking at the root cause.
Right. Was it a faulty rubber seal from the new vendor? Was it a scheduled maintenance failure? If we just blindly mop it up without addressing the root mechanical cause, it is just going to leak again tomorrow, and we will have solved absolutely nothing.
You know, I am genuinely torn here.
Why is that?
Because the red boss is absolutely right. If you stand around analyzing rubber seals while there is oil on the floor, someone is going to die. But the blue employee is also absolutely right. Mopping doesn't fix the broken machine, and ignoring the root cause is terrible engineering.
It's a true paradox.
So who is actually right? How does the author resolve this?
That tension you are feeling right now is the beauty and the ultimate tragedy of human behavior. They are both entirely right in their own analytical framework.
But they can't communicate it?
And they're both completely hopelessly wrong in how they are communicating it to the other person. Because they refuse to translate, the differing gears cause the entire engine to break down.
So they just judge each other.
Brutally. The red boss looks at the blue employee standing there analyzing the machine and thinks, this guy is a lazy, insubordinate, pedantic idiot who won't follow a simple, life-saving order.
And the blue?
The blue employee looks at the screaming red boss and thinks, this person is a reckless, short-sighted, irrational idiot who is ignoring a critical, systemic machine failure just to check a box.
And meanwhile, the oil is still on the floor.
Exactly. Unless one of them possesses the emotional intelligence to shift gears and adapt to the other's color, that dangerous oil spill is going to sit right there on the floor while they scream at each other about process.
That is painfully, excruciatingly relatable. It's not even about the oil spill anymore. It's about two egos refusing to yield their worldview.
That's exactly what it becomes.
But wait, let me step back and challenge this entire framework for a second.
Okay, challenge away.
Human beings are incredibly complex creatures.
Yeah.
We have childhood trauma, we have shifting upbringings, we have neurodivergence, we have days where we just haven't had enough sleep.
Absolutely true.
Are we really supposed to believe, based on this audiobook, that every single complex human being can just be neatly shoved into one of four colorful little boxes?
I completely agree with your skepticism. And more importantly, Thomas Erikson completely agrees with it.
Oh, he does?
Yes. The myth of the single color is one of the biggest misconceptions people have when they first encounter the DISC assessment. They take the test, get a result, and say, I am a red, as if it's their blood type.
Right, like an astrological sign.
Exactly. According to the vast data sets compiled in the audiobook, only about 5% of the global population is purely a single color.
5%. That is a tiny fraction of the workforce.
Exactly. Being purely one color is incredibly rare, and frankly, those people are usually the most difficult to interact with because they have zero natural flexibility.
So what's the rest of the pie look like?
The reality is that about 80% of all people are actually a mix of two colors, and the remaining 15% or so are a mix of three.
Are there any four-color people?
Nobody, absolutely nobody is all four. So we are not talking about shoving people into four neat boxes. We are talking about a highly complex spectrum of behavioral combinations.
Okay, that makes much more sense.
And exploring how these colors combine within a person or within a team reveals the true, messy complexity of human nature.
So if 80% of people are a mix of two colors, or if we are building teams, what are the natural alliances? Who naturally gets along with who without having to drastically shift their gears?
The natural allies usually share a baseline orientation, either in their pace or their focus. For example, reds and yellows generally get along quite well in the initial stages of a relationship.
Why? Because they're both loud.
Because they share a baseline pace. They are both fast-paced extroverts. They both want to move quickly, they both love to shoot from the hip, they both hate bureaucracy, and they both project massive outward energy.
Okay, so they feed off each other.
If you put a team of reds and yellows in a room to kick off a brand new startup, they will generate massive enthusiasm, build a prototype in a weekend, and hit the ground running at lightning speed.
Yeah, but based on everything you just told me about their blind spots, they will probably forget to actually incorporate the business legally because the yellow got distracted by designing the logo and the red got bored and started a second company.
You nailed it. They share incredible strengths, but they also share catastrophic blind spots. They will sprint off the starting line, but they might be running in the wrong direction.
And what about the quiet colors?
On the other side of the spectrum, blues and greens are natural allies. They share the opposite baseline. They are both reflective, slow-paced introverts.
So they get each other's need for space.
They intuitively understand each other's need to take a deep breath, to process information internally before speaking out loud, and to keep their feet firmly planted on the ground.
Sounds like a solid pair.
It is. A blue-green team won't build flashy castles in the sky, but they will meticulously plan and pour a flawless, sturdy, concrete foundation that will last for a century.
Okay, so what happens when you cross the streams? If those are the natural allies, what are the absolute impossible combinations? Put the puzzle pieces together that do not fit.
The absolute nightmare scenario, the hardest interpersonal combination to manage in any business setting, is pairing a pure yellow with a pure blue.
Oh, man. I see it already. The talkative, chaotic, dopamine-driven relationship person paired with the silent, pessimistic, spreadsheet-driven data person.
It is oil and water. Imagine a yellow walking into an office to pitch a massive new marketing campaign to a blue financial director.
This is going to be painful.
The yellow dives in with absolutely zero plan, no written instructions, no budget breakdown, just pure, unadulterated emotion, big visions, and wild hand gestures.
It's going to be amazing. We are going to change the world.
Exactly. The customers will love it. And the blue sits there behind their desk in total deafening silence, waiting for a single, solitary, verifiable fact.
And the yellow, who completely relies on social feedback, starts to panic.
Exactly. The yellow interprets the blue's silence not as analysis, but as a lack of excitement or a personal rejection. So the yellow panics and pulls out all the stops.
They start talking faster.
They start talking even faster, gesturing more wildly, trying desperately to charm the blue into smiling.
While the blue is just getting more and more horrified by the second.
The blue is internally screaming. To the blue's analytical mind, this yellow is a frivolous, undisciplined, chaotic windbag who hadn't done a single shred of actual research and is asking for $1 million based on a vibe.
And to the yellow?
To the yellow, the blue is a cold, uninspiring, robotic bore who is actively trying to kill their joy and sabotage their creativity.
They will utterly despise each other.
And the project will die unless one of them has the emotional intelligence to recognize the behavioral clash that is happening in real time.
That sounds like literally every marketing department fighting with every accounting department in the history of corporate America.
Pretty much.
But wait, you mentioned that 80% of people are a mix of two colors internally. Are there any combinations within a single person that just inherently do not work?
Yes. And it leads to the rarest, most fascinating profile of all, the red-green combination.
Wait, red and green. So an aggressive, dominant, task-oriented extrovert crossed with a passive, stability-seeking, relationship-oriented introvert.
That's the one.
How is that biologically or psychologically even possible? It sounds like a complete oxymoron.
It is an oxymoron, and it is incredibly rare. And more importantly, it is deeply exhausting for the person actually experiencing it.
I can imagine.
Because they possess completely fundamentally opposing traits within their own engine, they are constantly stressed by their own internal contradictions.
So half their brain wants to conquer and the other half wants to cuddle.
Kind of. Part of their brain, the red part, wants to aggressively take command of a situation, make lightning-fast decisions, and ruthlessly trample over anyone who gets in their way to achieve the goal.
Right, and the green part.
But the green part of their brain desperately wants peaceful harmony, wants everyone to be comfortable, and is terrified of making people mad.
So what does that actually look like when they have to manage a team?
It looks like severe behavioral whiplash. A red-green manager might get stressed about a deadline, completely lose their temper, slam their fist on the desk, and scream at their staff to work through the weekend.
The red takes over.
The red takes over completely. But an hour later, the green kicks in, and they're absolutely consumed by crushing guilt. They realize they damaged the social harmony.
Oh, wow. So they backtrack.
They will spend the next 3 days profusely apologizing, buying everyone donuts, and trying to repair the relationships they just squelched. Their inner gears are constantly grinding against each other. It is a recipe for extreme burnout.
That sounds like absolute psychological torture.
It really is.
Okay, this has been an incredibly deep dive. I mean, I can clearly see these colors manifesting in my colleagues and my friends, in my spouse. And yes, if I am being brutally honest, maybe a little bit in myself.
Self-reflection is the first step.
But I am reaching a boiling point with all of this theory. So if I want to survive this surrounded by idiots scenario on Monday morning, what is the actual practical takeaway?
The takeaway is adaptation.
But do I just have to be a shape-shifting chameleon? Am I supposed to walk into the office and be a ruthless red to my boss, turn around and act like a super chatty yellow to my marketing team, and then pretend to be a pedantic blue to my accountant?
That's how it feels at first.
Because I will be honest with you, that sounds exhausting. And more importantly, it makes me feel totally fake. It feels like manipulation.
That is the exact, nearly universal pushback Thomas Erikson gets from audiences when he presents this material. Isn't this just sociopathic manipulation? Aren't I losing my authentic self?
Right. Am I losing my authentic self?
But here is the ultimate, profound takeaway from the book. Adapting your communication style is not about changing your fundamental personality. It is the highest, most sophisticated form of emotional intelligence.
Okay, unpack that for me.
Let's return to the car transmission metaphor one last time to crystallize this. You have a car. You, as a person, are the engine. Your personality, your morals, your core beliefs, your sense of humor, that is the engine.
It does not change.
It does not change. You do not compromise your morals to speak to a red. But your behavior, the way you actually interact with the road conditions in front of you, is the transmission.
Right. You adjust to the terrain.
You wouldn't stubbornly try to drive 60 miles per hour in first gear. The engine would scream and explode, and you wouldn't try to start from a dead stop at a red light in fifth gear. You would stall out and go nowhere.
So adapting my color is just shifting my gears based on the terrain of the person sitting across from me. I'm still the same car. I'm just driving smarter.
Precisely. You aren't being fake. You are being ruthlessly effective. You are taking responsibility to ensure that your message is actually received. And to do that, you need a highly practical survival guide.
All right, I need the guide. Not just bullet points, but actual strategies. Let's role play this. Let's give you rapid fire advice for you to use tomorrow at the office.
Hit me. Let's start with the scariest one. The reds. If I have to go into a red boss's office to ask for more budget for my project, how do I not get my head bitten off? If you are dealing with a red, you must project strength. Stand your ground, do not shrink into the chair, be incredibly quick.
So cut the fluff.
Cut out all the pleasantries, do not ask how their both game was. Walk in and say, I need $10,000 for this software, it will save us $50,000 by Q3. Yes or no?
And if they push back?
If they push back or raise their voice, do not back down. If a red yells at you and you cower, they instantly lose respect for you. You become a doormat, an obstacle to be run over.
Then fight back.
Push back with hard facts, match their intensity slightly, and they will actually respect your strength.
Okay, cut the fluff, bring the fire. What about the yellows? How do I actually get them to do the work they promised me?
If you are dealing with a yellow, you have to play to their dopamine. Give them the spotlight. Be warm, smile, ask about their ski trip. Let them talk.
But how do I get the work out of them?
This is the most critical survival tactic for dealing with a yellow. You must force the structure onto them. Because of their selective memory, you cannot rely on a verbal agreement.
So I have to be their babysitter.
You have to be their scribe. The moment the meeting ends, you go back to your desk and follow up every single verbal promise with an email. Hey, loved hearing about your weekend. Just confirming what we agreed on.
Yeah.
You will deliver the graphics by Tuesday at noon.
So you create a paper trail that pierces their reality filter.
Exactly. Written accountability.
Smart. And the greens.
Yeah.
The 50% of the world who are terrified of the moose head. How do I get them to embrace a new project?
If you are dealing with the green, you must remove the threat of the unknown. Give them a clear, highly predictable plan. Do not ever spring surprises on them in a public meeting.
So no impromptu brainstorming sessions.
No. If you want them to change a process, sit down with them one-on-one beforehand and explain exactly how it's going to happen step by step. Reassure them that the team's stability will not be destroyed.
And let them process it.
And most importantly, let them have quiet time. Do not force a green to stand up in front of 50 people and give an impromptu speech. Their brain will shut down.
Good to know. And finally, the blues. How do I survive pitching an idea to the human spreadsheets?
If you are dealing with a blue, you bring the spreadsheets. Skip the personal small talk entirely. They do not care about your weekend, and asking about theirs feels like an invasive distraction from the work.
Just give them the facts.
Prove your quality. Show your raw data, show your risk assessments, and most importantly, give them time to process the information.
So don't ask for a decision in the room.
Never ask a blue for an immediate decision. Say, here is the data, I will leave this with you, let's reconvene on Thursday.
And expect them to tear it apart.
Expect them to criticize your plan. And remember, when they point out 14 flaws, it is not a personal attack on your character. It is their version of quality control.
That all makes perfect sense if I have worked with the person for 6 months and I know their color.
Right?
But what if I am walking into a vendor meeting with someone entirely new or someone who is perfectly balanced and I just can't read their dominant gear?
Then you rely on the ultimate golden rule of the DISC assessment, go green.
Go green, meaning act like the 50%.
Exactly. If you cannot figure out someone's color upon first meeting them, shut your mouth, listen, and observe.
Be the quiet observer.
Sit back, be polite, do not force the action, and let them talk first. A red will immediately start giving orders, a yellow will immediately start telling a story, a blue will immediately ask for the agenda.
So by waiting, they expose themselves.
By going green, by being a passive, supportive listener, you give them the space to reveal their behavioral language to you, and then you can shift your gears to match.
Go green. I really like that as a default setting. So looking at the big picture, what does this all mean as we synthesize this massive deep dive?
It changes everything, really.
It does. We started out at the very beginning talking about how much I hate toxic work cultures and the horrible, selfish people who create them. But looking at it through this framework, deconstructing the psychological drivers of these colors, it fundamentally changes the picture.
How so?
Well-
What's your biggest shift in perspective?
Well, the toxic work culture that you and I both complain about, it isn't usually born of pure cartoonish malice.
Right.
That red boss isn't waking up trying to be an evil dictator. Their brain is just prioritizing speed over feelings. That blue accountant isn't trying to maliciously ruin my day. They are just prioritizing accuracy over momentum.
And the yellows.
That yellow isn't trying to sabotage the project. They are just chasing dopamine. It's not a culture of idiots. It's a culture born of a total lack of behavioral translation.
Exactly. It is a tragedy of mistranslation, which requires a significant bit of humility from all of us.
Yeah, it really does. It requires me to admit my own glaring blind spots. And honestly, it means I have to turn the mirror on you, the listener, and on myself.
It's a hard mirror to look into.
It is so incredibly easy to sit in a conference room, point fingers, and label everyone else as difficult or slow or aggressive. But you have to remember this brutal, humbling reality.
Which is?
Because of your own behavioral blind spots, because of the gear you were stuck in. You are the idiot in someone else's story.
That is so true.
Somebody out there is going home right now, pouring a glass of wine and complaining to their spouse about you because you rigidly refuse to speak their language today.
That is a deeply humbling but absolutely necessary realization if you want to survive and thrive in any organization. Empathy starts with translation.
It really does.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with one final, deeper psychological puzzle that we haven't fully unpacked yet. Something for you to mull over.
Oh, lay it on us.
We have spent this entire time talking about outward behavior. The colors you show to the world, the gears you use to interact with your colleagues. But what happens when your outward behavior color completely clashes with your internal driving force?
Wait, what do you mean? Like a disconnect between the engine and the transmission?
Exactly. The DSE profile measures how you do things, but it doesn't necessarily measure why you do things, your core motivators.
Okay, give me an example.
Imagine being a socially driven blue. Your outward behavior is meticulous, quiet, and obsessed with flawless data. You look like a classic blue, but your internal driving force, the engine, is a desperate, deep-seated desire to help people and be socially connected.
So you want to save the world, but your behavioral gear makes you look like a cold robot.
Exactly. Or imagine being a highly individualistic green. You internally crave immense power, autonomy, and making your own rules, but your outward behavioral instinct paralyzes you with a need for harmony and avoiding conflict.
That sounds like a recipe for a massive midlife crisis. You're trapped in a behavioral cage that doesn't match your soul.
It creates immense, silent internal stress. So the provocative question I want to leave you with is this. As you go into work tomorrow and start analyzing all the idiots around you, take a quiet moment to truly analyze yourself.
Look inward before you look outward.
How much of your daily stress, your deep burnout, and your frustration with the world isn't actually coming from the toxic people around you, but is simply your own inner engine grinding violently against your outward color?